The quest to reach our fullest potential often starts with what I call the catalyst moment, the turning point that provides us with new perspectives and opportunities that change the course of our lives. In turn, the effects of these moments give each of us the clarity to emerge stronger and create new possibilities. Get ready to listen to people from all walks of life share how their struggles and disruptive moments, both big and small, become pivot points in their lives. While each person's journey will be unique, the one common thread is that their triumphs will inspire you to seek your own catalyst effect. I'm Rich Keller, the Catalyst, and welcome to the Catalyst Effect. Let's do this. Here are the 5 things you need to know about Ella Macduff. Number 1, Ella is a senior at the University of Maryland who turned a night she almost didn't survive into the start of a movement. Number 2, if you're a college student or a parent of one, you must listen to this episode. What happened to Ella can happen to anyone, and her story will change how you think about safety, support, and speaking up. Number 3, she's the co-founder of Chasing Red Flags, a mental wellness brand that reclaims our red flags as signals for self-awareness and growth. Number 4, her catalyst moment ignited a mission to protect victims, raise awareness, and spark real change. And number 5, she created a powerful tool for self-discovery, healing, and connection, one we'll explore during our time together. This conversation is raw, real, and necessary. Ella's story is a masterclass in courage and the kind that reminds us to stay aware, stand with our friends, and never stay silent. Let's meet Ella Macduff. Ella Macduff is in the Catalyst Effect house, and I'm truly grateful you're taking the time to share what I know will be an important story for my listeners to hear, especially if you're in college or a parent with a child heading to college. Say hello to my listeners, Ella.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here and to share my story today.
How's senior year going at Maryland for you?
It's amazing. I love it. I'm very happy to be back. I'm still settling in a little bit, but it's the last one, so I'm trying to make the most of it.
Okay, buckle up for the real world. It's coming.
I'm ready. Hopefully.
Okay. Oh, you definitely are. Before we dive into our conversation, I always like to share how I met my guests.
Love it.
I had Brady Nathan on my show. Shout out to Brady for bravely sharing her son Jack's story of fentanyl poisoning and how she is honoring his legacy through Happy Jack. I then came across your episode with Brady on your podcast, Chasing Red Flags, and something compelled me to learn more about you. Your story stopped me cold, and it also struck me again in the recent documentary, When Is It Enough?, alongside the other powerful stories that were shared there, especially Bailey's too, and we'll talk about that today. My daughter is 24, Samantha. My son is 27, Zach. And one of my greatest fears is something like your story happening to them. That's why I wanted to share your story with my listeners, so we can all be more aware, more prepared, and more supportive of each other. Ella, we were meant to meet.
Meant to meet.
I truly believe the universe put your story in front of me because as a dad with kids your age, it hit me in a way I couldn't ignore. The goal of my show is simple. I amplify stories of people who turn a disruptive moment into the power to conquer obstacles and create new possibilities that serve others. And you're an incredible example of the catalyst effect in action.
Thank you.
So Ella, let's begin by taking us back to that night in Boston, December 21, 2022. What do you remember? And what have others filled in for you about the moment your life took a turn you weren't expecting? The floor is yours.
Thank you. And I am going to start off by sharing what I remember, and then the rest I'll explain. It's basically filled in from what I've heard from other people, as I do not have any memory of the rest of the night. But I remember that night I had gone to a Bruins game with my ex-boyfriend, and we had walked out of the bar. I mean, we had walked out to go meet his friends at a bar. And I remember we all got inside and we ordered a bucket of beers, and it was a big bucket that had twist-off caps that weren't open yet. So I had to twist it off myself. I remember that my ex told me he had to go to the bathroom, and he told me to stay where I was and to be with his friends, and he would be right back. But I saw some people that I knew across the bar, and I went over to go say hi because I like to think that I was friendly. So I just wanted to go say hi to some people.
Absolutely.
That is actually the last thing that I do remember from the night.
Wow.
So
Wow.
After that, I was told that when my ex got back from the bathroom, I was standing over with some people and that I had a drink in my hand. It was an open drink, a glass cup, and I don't know how I got it or who gave it to me, but I had it there. And I basically told my ex that I wasn't feeling well, and we got into an Uber, and I started to throw up. And I was going from kicking and screaming and being extremely agitated in the actual Uber that they had to throw us out of the Uber because I threw up. So they're allowed to do that.
Yeah,
we
definitely.
then called another Uber and the same situation happened. So at this point, I felt like I was not in control of my body. Two Ubers had kicked us out, and we were on the side of the road. And at the time, it was winter and it was raining. And so my ex carried me under a bridge over his shoulder, basically threw me over, called my mom in a panic, being like, I think that Ella is dying. She needs to go to a hospital. She needs help. And he was absolutely amazing. I would not have been here, I don't think, without him, but
thank God.
Thank God.
Exactly.
And that for me personally, outside of this, is why I always feel like when you're in a situation, you need to be with people who you know are going to take care of you. Like very
Absolutely.
much. It's so important.
100%. So he calls your mom.
So he called my mom, and my mom made a decision, and it was her mom instincts. But we were in an area in Boston that she didn't know very well, and she didn't know where the ambulance would take me and what hospital. So she basically drove in 10 to 15 minutes to where we were and picked
Mama
Bear. And she picked us up and she drove me to the hospital. I don't remember anything at the hospital that night, but my mom was there with me, and she told me that when I got into the hospital room, the doctor kept telling her that I was just drunk and that I needed to just sleep it off and that I was fine.
Wow.
And again, with Mama Bear, and she knows her daughter, she certainly was not quiet. And she said, I know my daughter. She is not drunk right now. You need to give her a drug test. She kept telling them over and over that I was drugged and that they needed to do a drug test. And they refused. There was no empathy, no remorse, and my mom was terrified. The reason that they did not give me a drug test is because right now the laws in Massachusetts don't protect the victims of drink spiking. Massachusetts hospitals don't require to give you a drug test unless you have also been sexually assaulted.
We're going to talk about that today.
That there was no code for insurance. So that is what we had heard. And so at the time I had a lot of different symptoms, which is why the hospital should have known that I was not just drunk. And this is hard to say, but I feel like it's necessary in a situation like this. But I was obviously throwing up in and out of consciousness, and I ended up going to the bathroom in my pants, and I had absolutely no idea. And so the doctors, 2 male doctors, had to take my clothes off and clean me while I was unconscious.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you. But I was extremely aggressive while I was in the hospital. So I kept kicking. I was biting. I was like yelling. I don't remember, but it was very aggressive. And so there's a picture of a bite mark that my mom had from me. And so they had to end up giving me a shot of Haldol to calm me down. And so it's a sedative. And they tied my hands and legs to the hospital bed because I was so aggressive.
Wow.
I have no memory of the night, and my mom was sitting next to me when I woke up in the morning. But I was laying there, hands and legs still tied to the bed, naked in a hospital gown. And they released me from the hospital right after.
At that point, were you conscious and you knew what was going on when you woke up?
It was the next morning. So they gave me the sedative at, I don't know what time, probably in the middle of the night. And they said that would knock me out. And then when I woke up, I looked around and my mom was with me, and I knew something was going on.
Did you know at that point that your drink was spiked, or you just the morning and they release you and you go home?
I knew that my drink was spiked the second I woke up, because I knew that, I mean, I assumed it was from the way that I
Sure.
was feeling. I
Sure.
also know my actions and how I am, and that is not something I would have been doing if I was just drunk.
Sure. And is that something you and your mom talked about on the way home?
Yes. And so
okay,
my
great.
mom was extremely upset and said, I just want to let you know you were drugged. And I
Yeah.
have asked
Oh,
for
wow.
a drug test, and they refused. And that is why
okay.
they are sending you home right now. And
Great.
so they ended up sending me home. And
Unfortunately. And what happened next?
my symptoms got worse that day. And so they released me. The day went on, and I ended up developing a very high fever. And I ended up having a seizure and chipping my front tooth.
Ooh,
So
wow.
if you've ever had muscle spasms, or like if you have a toe cramp and like you feel like you can't move it, that happened throughout my entire body. So it's called muscle
Wow.
rigidity. And I had that everywhere, and it locked my jaw. So I couldn't talk or like move. And so I was readmitted into the hospital and put into the
wow.
ICU.
Oh, wow.
And that is when they told me that I developed serotonin syndrome, which is the combination of too many drugs in your system at one time.
Okay. And did they know you had other drugs that were in your system? Well, they didn't know that you were drugged at that point, but they
So
did.
they didn't know, but it was a new doctor at the time. So the doctors
Yeah.
in the ICU were much nicer and more empathetic.
Nice.
And
Of course.
the woman doctor came in and took one look at me and said that this girl was drugged. Why is nobody
Wow.
doing anything? And then
Wow.
when my mom said they gave me Haldol, I'm on Lexapro for anxiety. Clearly the drug that was in my system from being drugged. And then I also take some vitamins. So the combination of those gave me serotonin syndrome. And they were just nicer.
And what
They
exactly
knew I
is
wasn't
serotonin?
drunk.
What exactly is serotonin syndrome? Like, what happens if you weren't in the hospital and you had it? What happens?
Well, it was exactly what had happened before. So it was the high fever, it was the muscle rigidity, it was the
Wow.
spasms, it was like not being able to move, and then having a seizure is one of the worst symptoms of serotonin syndrome. And that's what I
Wow.
ended up having.
And when you were in the ICU for 24 hours, did they give you anything, or did it have to wear off, or did they give you any medication to stop the serotonin syndrome?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
they gave me an IV to get some
Okay.
liquid into my system because I
Sure.
was severely dehydrated.
Wow.
But other than that, I just remember being in the ICU, and my mom wasn't allowed to come with me.
Yeah,
So
I
I was
remember
just
that
all by myself.
story. Yeah.
And it was just like, it was very scary.
Of course.
I did have an IV. I remember the next day when I left, I had like bruises on both of my arms from the IVs. So I'm pretty sure they were
Sure.
just trying to like get some liquid into my system and make sure that I was okay. But at that time, I
And
think it was too late to do anything.
well, and unlike the night before, you were aware in the ICU, so you knew you were in the ICU.
Except for when I had the seizure.
Right. Okay. And you
Yes.
had the seizure at the hospital,
Yes.
right? Okay. And can you talk a little bit about why the drug wasn't detected in your system? Correct? It wasn't when they did the test?
They never tested me.
They never tested you.
So
But
they told me because I was not sexually assaulted, it was not required to give me a drug test. And after
even
24
the
hours,
ICU,
it was too late.
That's what I was going to say. So
Out of
after
your
24
system.
hours, it's out of your system, and which is part of the bigger problem in this whole legislative process.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
So you finally see your mom, you get released, and just talk to me a little bit about what you were feeling, what happened next. I know for learning your story that you wanted life to go on, you wanted to talk to us a little bit about it.
I did. After when I left that hospital, I completely tried to ignore what happened and go back to my normal life. I honestly was extremely embarrassed because I have no memory of what I did, who I talked to, what I said. I also felt a little guilty because at the time my ex kind of made me feel bad for leaving his friends and going over to see other people, and kind of like, if that didn't happen, maybe I wouldn't have been drugged. So we never talked about it again, my ex and I, and like that just made me feel as though what had happened was my fault.
Sure.
So it was a lot to process, and I really just wanted to forget it all and
move on.
And it didn't help, and it didn't work, because I became anxious in crowded
Sure.
places and in bars, and I started experiencing panic attacks after that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, I know how super close you are with your mom, and I've listened to a couple of episodes of your podcast, which you'll talk about. What was the dynamic between you and your mom? I imagine it was a learning experience, and you've learned a lot from this, which you'll talk about.
Yes.
But what was the dynamic of her? Did you talk to her about it? Did you not want to just talk about it at all? Did you go to therapy in the beginning?
Nothing. I didn't talk about
Nothing.
it.
Wow.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. I really wish that I started talking about it, and I'm so
Sure.
glad that I'm doing it now. But I
Of
truly,
course.
at the time, wanted to put on a perfect face and pretend that everything was okay and that nothing had happened.
And your mom was okay with that? Like she wasn't really pushing you or badgering you to talk about it at all? You just moved on?
She tried. She is very much, we need to talk things out. We need to make sure you're okay. She's a big advocate on therapy, and I was pushing back for a little while. So
Absolutely.
It was more on me. She tried to keep bringing it up, but it was me who wanted to just forget it all.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because, I mean, I'm a big advocate of therapy, and we're going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, in doing my research on you, you weren't processing what happened. And I guess I was always wondering, there was no manual for the process to handle it. This is something that isn't talked about.
No.
People don't disclose. So in a lot of ways, society blaming you, if you didn't move or you didn't do this or you didn't do that. I want to say that I don't blame you for wanting to just move on, but why didn't you want to just tell a friend? Or why, I guess what made you decide, what, I have to talk about this? What was that moment that really, made that happen?
First, I felt like the reason I couldn't just go and tell a friend was I didn't have any evidence. So that was a little hard too. Like, I didn't have the drug test because they never gave it to me. We went back to the bar and there were no video cameras. I wasn't able to see anything. And so that kind of made me just feel like, oh, not that people wouldn't believe me, but I just didn't want to share something like that if I didn't have any necessarily proof, you could say. But I would say, first off, you don't think that it's going to happen to you until it does, or
Absolutely.
Anybody you know.
That's why I'm doing this whole story of yours, an episode.
And I ended up just wanting to talk about it because I realized how much it was affecting my mental health. And
when was that moment? Like, what's the straw that broke the camel's back that you said, I do have to go to therapy, or I do have to talk about it? Can you just talk a little bit about somebody listening, how they can process that for you?
I was honestly scrolling on TikTok, and I saw another video of a girl who had just gotten drugged, and she had spoken out about it. And I connected to the story, and then I went basically on like a whole journey on TikTok, and I clicked on a hashtag that said drink spiking, and it was just millions of videos of people talking about it, and there was nothing being done to help these victims. And I realized that I am also a victim, and if there's something that I can be doing to help, then I want to. And so I created a video on TikTok when we started our company, Chasing Red Flags, and I shared my story, and it kind of blew up from there.
So before we talk a little bit about the incredible platform that you created, I want to say, or at least for my listeners to understand, what were some of the impact of not sharing your story? What the shame and the guilt, how did it manifest in your everyday life to the point that you did the TikTok and you were like, I'm going to be empowered?
I went on a spring break trip with a bunch of sorority friends after it had happened to me, and that night was basically a turning point for me because I had a panic attack in the middle of the bar, feeling like
they didn't know. They had no idea.
No. at the time.
Got it.
And I was
Okay.
extremely anxious, and it made me realize that I need to share my story and I need to address the guilt and shame that I was feeling. And that is kind of when I started talking about it with my therapist and sharing my story. And I will say, it has now been almost 2.5 years since I was drugged. And I cannot say that I don't think about it every single time that I go out, because I do.
Oh, of course.
And
of course.
of course, I would love to be a normal college student. But now that I have kind of seen the darker side of things, I don't think I will ever stop wondering who did this to me and why.
100%.
And
Listen, I'm a
so-
31-year cancer survivor, and for 31 years, every pang, hurt, mark, I'm constantly worried, and
Always.
I'm asking my wife all the time. So, by the way, that is normal. I know you talk a lot about it's okay not to be okay. That is normal. Like,
It's
you're
nice
a human.
to hear from somebody else.
Oh my
too,
God.
so
I would
thank
tell.
you.
Of course, if it was my daughter out, I'd be in the bar with her. Like your mom
That's
was like,
what my mom is like. I have to keep in touch with her every 30 minutes. Like, it's very.
go Terry.
Yep.
I mean, like that, I don't want to be a helicopter parent because I'm not, but let me tell you something. I'd be helicoptering in that bar.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So before we get into the chasing red flags and the whole idea, but I want to ask a question. Did you start therapy before you created Chasing Red Flags?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
For different
And-
reasons.
Sure,
Yes,
sure.
but
How did the therapy how did the therapy start opening you up? Like, how did it start making you feel more comfortable to get to this next step?
I started it because I was cheated on twice by my ex-boyfriend, and
Okay.
that was something that I also hadn't processed a lot. And I started therapy, and I just got extremely comfortable with my therapist. I basically trauma dumped to her, and I
Great.
didn't even realize that I was talking about being drugged, but I did. And I just realized, oh my God, I just told her, and I feel better.
Ah. So therapy, the intention of therapy was not to talk about the drink
No.
spiking. It was more to talk about your ex-boyfriend.
It was to
Oh,
heal. And then it
Amazing.
went from me telling her about my high school experience to
Love
being
it.
with him to then being drugged and
I
now
love
being
it.
like, oh my God, I just told my story and it feels so much better. And if my experience can help prevent this from happening to other people, then sharing it feels so good to me.
And I want my listeners to understand, as somebody who goes to therapy and has been going for the last 12 years, that's how it begins.
Yes.
The minute you start cleansing,
Mhm.
like if you had asked yourself, I'm going to tell her right now, you probably wouldn't have, but the fact that it came out and all of a sudden, wow, that opens up your whole world to be able to talk about it. And I want to now ask you, what was the catalyst moment where you decided this experience wouldn't define you,
Yep.
but it instead fueled a mission, and that's how Chasing Red Flags was started? So tell us the story of how you got up and made things happen.
So I will say we're a very open household in my family. And
So
in our house, I always use I've always used the term, why am I chasing red flags? Why am I
Oh, wow.
struggling with bad relationships and friendships? Why am I going towards that? And I just realized one day, I just said, because everyone has them. So I'm always
Wow.
going to be chasing them somehow. But it was basically in a car ride with my mother, and we had talked about this before, and we were driving for 8 hours going back to school, and
Yeah.
I was like, Mom, with everything that I've been through and all of the realizations that we've had, what if we just started a podcast and just
wow,
talked
you said it.
and just
You would
talked about, like, it's crazy and it sounds insane, but what if we just did it? And my mom was like, maybe we should. And if I'm being honest, that's kind of how it started.
And from that moment, you went back to school.
Went back
Did
to
you
school.
start? Did you start
started
writing?
making designs for our brand, which is now our red flag here. We just
Love
started
it.
trying. Again, we're not business people, so we probably have done
You don't have to be.
everything backwards or not the
Move
right
and improve.
way.
No,
But
no,
we just
no.
did it as we went, and so we started
how
creating
you-
our brand.
That's how you do it as somebody who does branding. Yes, you can think about it, but thinking doesn't
No.
actually make it
You have to
happen.
do.
I have a saying, move and improve, move and improve, move and improve. Oh my God. By the way, if somebody were to go, as I will tell my listeners to go to chasingredflags.com,
Yeah.
you would never know that you just didn't improve. You know, this looks like you really,
Thank you.
it looks like
It didn't start like that. Let me tell you, it did not.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm actually happy to hear that because I am building my brand platform, and 8 years ago, it was not what it looked like today, but I didn't sit back and say, we can't move until then. We can't move. You just go.
You go.
You just go.
Anybody that wants to do it, I tell them, I think you just start it, because if we had never like had that catalyst and just tried it, then we would have never been what we are now.
That's exactly right. So tell us a little about what the platform is about. What's the mission? What are you trying to help people do? And how has it helped you become this empowered person as a result?
So Chasing Red Flags now, because it started off just as a podcast, but it's a mental wellness brand, and it's big on where we promote authenticity over perfection.
Love
and
it.
We're trying to reclaim our red flags as these powerful signals for self-awareness and growth. And throughout the past year and a half that we've had this company, we've created like a growing lineup of a bunch of different offerings designed to really spark these real, honest conversations, which includes our podcast, which is the Let's Get Real podcast.
Which is great. I've listened to quite a few episodes.
Thank you. It features a bunch of different interviews with some professional athletes, some doctors, mental health experts, entrepreneurs, and it's all about life, love, and really just the messiness of being human. Go.
Dad, no, I'm sorry.
No, worries.
I was gonna say, why did you want to share your story? Why? Like you could have therapy's done. Not that you're healed and you ever will be, but like, go on. I'm in Maryland. I'm in college. There's a reason why something inside of you. And why did you want to share your story?
I, throughout my entire life, feel and felt like I had just put on a perfect face and pretended that everything was okay. And looking back on a lot of my relationships, they were not real, deep, honest relationships. And with a lot of therapy, I realized that the only way to grow and become connected to other people and show your real self is to share every aspect of who you are. And that's incredibly hard and difficult, but I want to be somebody who can do that so other people can feel like they can as well.
At your age, that is unbelievable. I mean, honestly, I quit my career at 50. Okay, I'm going to age myself. I'm 58. I know I'm not 29 anymore.
Really? I thought you were 29.
Let me tell you something. No, you got to step back and like you got to take real credit and own how amazing that what you just said is. And and that's why I know your mom says I'm proud of you all the time. Mothers do that, but I just need you to understand that it took me till 50 to admit that I didn't want to be in corporate America anymore. I wanted to help people I loved the brands I worked on. Yeah. I wanted to help people, personal brands instead of product brands. Yep. And at my age, people laughed at me, Ella.
I get laughed at all the time too.
Why would you want to start over? You're 50, like you're almost done. Exactly. You're ready for that. And people would laugh when I quit. Like you quit, you gave up a lot of money I go, yup. And then I had people say to me, I would never let my husband do that, as if I needed permission. Although I have to tell you, I did a quit on the spot before any of my family knew. And I got home that night and my wife was the first one to say, go conquer the world. And she's been by my side ever since.
Love it.
But the point is, so many people are feeling the way you felt, whether it's drink spiking, whether it's eating disorder, anxiety, boyfriend. And so many of us don't do anything about it. Like we hide. And the reason I wanted to tell you a story, in addition to the drink spiking, is it is just amazing what you have done. And you're in the beginnings, you're in the throes of it. Yes. But Sarah Blakely was too at Spanx, out of her house. Okay. And at the end of the day, you got to start somewhere. And I believe the reason why you're going to be successful is because your story is your credibility. Okay. It's not like you got up and said, Mom, let's just do a podcast because all my friends have eating disorders and my friends are worried about getting boyfriends and married. Yeah. You experienced it all. And for someone to look at you, hear your story, and then see that you did this is one word that I love, hope. There's hope.
Thank you.
And I'm just so proud of you. So the question I want to ask you is, why were you always chasing red flags? I know everybody does, but like, why were you I look at you, and before I read your story, I was like, this girl seems like she has it all. You are so comfortable and easy to talk to.
Thank
all the
you.
conversations that we had. Your mom thinks you're the end of the world. You and your mom have a great relationship. Why do you think you were always chasing red flags?
I think it came from me being a really big people pleaser. And that is one of my big red flags. So,
me too.
Well, there you go. So you might relate to this, but I tried to always I put people first before myself. And so I would always try to make people happy at the expense of myself. And I think that kind of was my catalyst in a way of realizing that I need to stop people pleasing and kind of put myself first. It's hard, but I don't want to be like that anymore. I understand that I have to put myself first in situations and make myself happy. And that's something that this brand and this company has kind of like, I've stepped into my own. Before a year and a half ago, if we were having this conversation, I don't know if I would be the same person or if I would be
100%. Oh my God, 100%. And I've learned in therapy that when you people please, you resent.
Yes.
Okay. And I didn't know that. Like when my therapist said that to me, I was like, that's an interesting point, because my kids, my wife, I'm always trying to like people please. And then I get annoyed. And 3 days later, I cut my wife's head off.
Yep.
And I started realizing, and you know what's really funny? The term when you're on a plane, put your oxygen mask on first before you put your kids on. Like, I know that metaphor sounds ridiculous, but it really is a powerful metaphor, because I tell my wife and kids now, it's not selfish.
Yeah.
It's so that I can take the best care of myself so I can be there for you.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up serving and helping others.
Exactly.
I love that. But I have to put a little bit of myself first, mental health, working out, eating well. And that's for you to know that now, 20 years later, you're going to be on fire. No, really, it's unbelievable. And be able to teach other people. Not everybody is where you are.
Yep.
Of course not. They have to go on the journey, but you're helping them see that, you know what? I'm in control of we can't control what happens to you, as you know, but you can control what you do with what happens to you.
Exactly. And I think with the red flag thing, I'm always going to be chasing red flags because everyone has them, but it's the type of red flags that I would like to be chasing. And that's what I think people need to realize.
What's an example of a red flag that you would like to be chasing?
So, I mean, I would like to not be chasing any, but everyone has them. So one that I have personally, besides being a people pleaser, is like when I don't feel wanted, I try to make myself feel needed. And so that's something I tried to figure out in therapy. But a red flag that I wouldn't mind chasing in somebody else is if they're an anxious person. I consider that is a red flag to some people. Some people do not like others who have anxiety, don't want to be in a relationship like that. I am perfectly fine with giving a friend or a significant other as much reassurance as they need, because I recognize that in them. I know who they are. They've been open about it, and I'm okay with it.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that.
It's one
and
example.
Listen, I'm 58 and I'm still chasing red flags. We all do.
We're always going today.
But the fact that you recognize that is what's important, because when you recognize it, I always tell people, the people I mentor especially, when you recognize something, then it's your job to change it or fix it. You can't use the excuse, but I'm young, or
Nope.
it's just, I didn't know. You are aware of it. Now it's time to put a behavior in. I want to ask you, so you're in the car, you have an 8-hour drive, and you start this podcast. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the advocacy that you're involved with, especially with Boston and the legislation. But when did you decide or realize that actually this platform could be a vehicle for education, advocacy, and legislation? Like, how did that all come about?
So I created the Chasing Red Flags TikTok at the time, it was big on TikTok to just kind of like share stories and do little like videos about yourself. And so I had done some about like some past relationships and friendships. And then I created the one about the drink spiking, and that blew up. And I ended up being reached out to by Nightcap.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Shira.
Yes, who has been an amazing person in my life and who has helped me so much. She has created a company called Nightcap, which has a bunch of different drink spiking prevention products. And she reached out to me.
Let me also say, Shira was on Shark Tank.
Yes, she was on Shark
She
Tank.
got a deal with Lori Grenier.
Huge.
And listeners, go watch it, because at 16, this girl's pretty unbelievable as well. So continue. I just wanted to let my listeners know.
She is unbelievable. And I had heard of it, but after that we started connecting. She sent me some nightcaps for free. And then from there, she was telling me about her advocacy that she had been doing in other states, in California especially. And I realized that this is also an epidemic in Massachusetts. And if I can be I was okay being the face of it for Massachusetts, then I want to share my story and try to do what she's doing here, and then eventually in all 50 states.
How did it come about where you spoke to Congress, right?
Yes.
There's a bill. Can you share a little bit about the bill? And then I have a couple of questions, but how did that come about where they called you?
The bill right now is trying to be passed in the sense of where you don't have to be sexually assaulted to request a drug test. Right now, there's just no code for insurance. And so this has tried to be the bill has been tried to be passed before, but now it is going back again. So I spoke in front of Congress a few months ago, and they have until December 3rd to decide to take it to the next stage. And hopefully this time, once this passes, then anybody who wants or requests a drug test will be able to get one in the state of Massachusetts.
You know, it's funny that you said that, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because my wife and I had a little debate. I was listening and I did my research, and you answered the question. So it's not that you automatically will get a drug test. It's if you request one and you're not sexually assaulted, you can get a test. Beautiful. That's what my wife was telling me. She's like, Rich, not everybody wants a drug test.
If you don't want one, you don't have to have one. But if you ask for one, you should be able to get one. Like my mom, who had power of attorney over me because I had signed some papers. She requested a drug test, and they said no. So if she had requested it when this bill passes, then they would give me one.
Okay, at first I was like, okay, not a big deal, certainly let's hope it passed. And then I watched the documentary, When Is It Enough, by Shira, right?
Yes.
Shira and her husband did it?
Or just
her
Shira.
brother?
Her and her brother,
Her and her brother.
Yes.
Her and her brother. And I sat there, I mean, my jaw dropped when I watched the documentary, and I'm like, how could this be where you're at a hospital? I even said to my wife, I'm like, I'd be over the counter on
my mom
getting
was
the needle.
Doing that.
Right. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't we want to see, are you drugged? Can we prosecute or whatever? But like, I don't understand after the documentary. I'm like, it's everywhere. It's not just Boston. Like, I didn't realize it. And more power to you for trying and sharing your story and doing something to hopefully get this changed.
It needs to be passed, because then victims can literally go to the hospital, get tested, and then they're able to gather data that shows that this is happening more frequently. And I think the biggest part, at least for me, especially with my experience with the 2 male doctors that I had, this bill also in Massachusetts includes empathy training for doctors.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's extremely essential, because telling my mom that I should sleep it off because I was drunk was not acceptable.
Oh, wow. That's good training. We all need, we can
necessary.
all use some empathy training.
Yes.
I also have to tell you, Ella, that in all honesty, what woke me up after I watched the documentary, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, and I want my listeners to hear this, I didn't realize that it could be water as well. Like, I didn't all
either,
of a sudden,
if I'm being honest.
I was like, wait a minute. So my son could be at a tennis, football, any hockey game, and all of a sudden somebody could spike his water. Oh yeah. Listeners, watch that documentary. When Is It Enough? And I'm telling you right now, you're going to sit there and go, have that discussion with your kids. I'm making my kids watch that documentary. I sent it to them because I was like, oh, it's not just alcohol. Because I roofied.
I agreed
associated
100%. That's what I thought too. And hearing these other people's stories and that it was in a water or something else, it is so terrifying.
But that's when I was like, okay, so excited to interview Ella so we can get the story out even more. I have children. It's funny. I told my daughter and a group of her girlfriends from Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I told them a couple of weeks ago that we were going to be doing the interview because you went abroad and then you came back and all that. And it's funny. My daughter Samantha has 8 ride or die friends, and they are ride or die.
Yep.
And they were all talking about how they all watch each other. And when they get to the bar, they make sure that there's a pairing up. And if somebody goes to the bathroom in a while, they don't see them. And I felt really relieved. I mean, it's not a definite, like, it can't still happen. But
that's,
let me tell
I agree, you need those people around you.
And they watch their drink. Of course, anything can happen. But they know if they don't see my daughter for 6 minutes in the bathroom, where are you, Sam? Or she leaves. They leave with somebody, unlike Bailey, the woman in the documentary who ended up, losing her life. But my point is, I was really impressed and happy that people, at least my daughter and her friends are talking about it, but we certainly need to hear more stories about you, of yours, so that it could happen to anybody. It's not just your friend or your neighbor. It could be you.
Exactly. And I'm not going to lie. I would have never thought it would have happened to me. Ever. And then it did.
Of course. I never thought at 26 years old I would wake up with cancer. And my wife would be 43 and she would have cancer. I am a little bit, I'm not the norm. I am more aware of things because once you have an event like you did,
you can't go back.
Now you are. But I'm not, for me, I got to be honest also, for me, we can't prevent the event from happening, but we can learn what to do. Unlike yourself or your boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, we can learn what to do in that event. And one of the things I want to talk about that I thought was really important was, can we talk a little bit about the forms that parents need to sign? Because this one, I told my wife also, I'm like, we don't have those forms.
Yes.
And we're going to get them from Sam and Zach at 24 and 27. So just tell us a little bit about, if you are a student at college and something happens to you, your parents need to do the following in order to speak on your behalf.
So we have them. We have it on our website right now, and they're called Mama Bear Legal Forms. So if you go to the chasingredflags.com website, it is under our resources. And after you are 18, you are an adult. So you have power over yourself. And these forms you, as an 18-year-old, can sign with your parents, and it can give your parents power of attorney over you. So in a situation like I was in, if my mom did not have those forms, the doctor I have no idea what the doctor would have done.
Right.
So,
but wouldn't have said anything probably.
Yep. Would have sent me right home, or wouldn't have let me into the hospital, or would have just said, take her back and go to sleep. But if you were, for example, in a car accident and you couldn't speak for yourself or make a decision, instead of the doctor doing it, your parents could choose to do it for you. Right.
And that's important because if the next of kin, my wife had said this to me, next of kin, if you are unconscious and unable to talk, the parents, they can have some agency. But if you're awake and you want to get questions, you're in another room and you didn't sign those papers, we have to wait till Ella comes out. We can't, blah, blah, so that's the important distinction. Like my wife said to me, if Zach went into the hospital and he was unconscious, his girlfriend could not get information without this, but the parents, my wife and I can.
Yes.
But if Zach is up and he broke his leg in another room and we get there, we want to see Zach, you have to wait for him to come out. He's over 18 without the papers. With the papers, okay. I just want to be, it's so important.
It's so incredibly important. We are trying so hard to advocate for that because I don't think people even know that that's a thing.
No.
Like my friends in college, and we are now 21, they had no idea.
Unbelievable. I bet you 70-80% of parents that are sending their
idea.
kids to college, no idea. You don't think it would happen to. Oh, it's not going to happen to them.
Yep.
Stop. They're with friends. They're responsible or whatever. So
I think in colleges, it should be like when you fill out forms to get into college, that should be included. Like it needs
Absolutely.
to be more known that this is something that you should be doing.
Absolutely. And you know what? Maybe down the road, I can see Chasing Red Flags,
That's the goal.
petitioning for that, no doubt.
Yes.
I want to ask you, before we talk about this unbelievable journal that you put together, what has been the community response? And did you expect the response that you've been receiving, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Chasing Red Flags podcast, the website? What has been the community response about this?
Incredible.
Talk about that.
I have never felt more supported, and that has made me feel really empowered for sharing my story, because I will say, like we had talked about, I was so incredibly anxious. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want anyone to know. And the second that I shared my story, I just realized that, if I'm being honest, we are not rare. We are just rarely believed.
I love
and
that.
That's my
I wrote that
favorite
down.
line.
I wrote that down from the episode with
Yep.
Alyssa and Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
I love, and even in the legislation, in the documentary, you say that. I say that again because I love it.
We are not rare. We are just rarely believed. And it's
powerful.
it's not a nice feeling to know that other people are going through it, but it's so nice to know that I'm not the only one, and that I'm creating a community that is safe for people to be themselves and open up about their trauma and feel like they have a support system. And the response has been more than I could have ever imagined.
Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes, we have
but
a
really,
Facebook page.
Is it predominantly TikTok and your website?
Instagram
and the
has been huge for us.
Oh,
so
wow.
Instagram, TikTok, our podcast, and our website have been our biggest areas of like where everyone has been going to and reaching out.
What are they reaching out about? Are they like asking you questions, or are they, what's some of the things that they have responded to?
I have gone through it a lot throughout my life, from a toxic ex to an eating disorder to being drugged to having some friendships that have gone in and out, and also just being a college student. So the amount of questions and stories that I've heard have ranged from all of those areas. A lot of it started out with other victims of drink spiking reaching out to me, and a lot of them had never shared their story before. And I was the first person they told it to, and that really stuck with me and made me feel so grateful that they felt like they could share that to me.
Do people, as a result of that, tell you then that they've started therapy, or do you ask them?
A bunch of them have. Some of them are still working on trying to process it themselves, but I express to each and every one that I'm an outlet for them, and if they ever need a call or a text or just somebody to talk to that's outside of their immediate circle, then I can be that for them. Along with the drink spiking, I've had people reach out about their eating disorders or how they used to go through it as well, and just kind of appreciating that I've been sharing about it. And then I get a lot of questions about life in college and relationships and how to handle certain situations. So it feels really nice that I'm able to like help other people now that I've kind of shared my own stories.
Sure, of course. Can we talk a little bit about your eating disorder?
Absolutely.
From the sense of, I was really moved by your podcast episode. I watched your drink spiking episode. I watched your eating disorder episode. I also watched Jackie Goldschneider. I'm going to read her book On the Plane to Africa next week.
Amazing.
We'll talk about that offline.
Book.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline because I'm pretty wowed by it. Did the eating disorder, was it before the drink spiking? After? Did it exacerbate it? Did feeling alone even make it worse? I just wanted to understand how that fit into the drink spiking and also the issues that you've had with the exes and friendships and so on.
It was before and then a little bit like during, you could say, but it was it started out before. And I think that started because I felt like I had no control in my life at the time.
That's right. That's
I
right.
had
And can you tell everybody what type of eating disorder you
I
had?
had bulimia, so that's when you
Okay.
make yourself throw up.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
And
Okay.
so that for me, I didn't really understand why I was doing it, and then I went to therapy, and my therapist was like, so you feel like this is your way of gaining control back because you can make yourself feel better. I mean,
right.
I was hurting myself, but
Sure.
at the time I
Sure.
felt like I was making myself feel better. And so that was a little bit before the drugging, and then I believe it was for a little bit after, and then my mom caught me.
Yeah,
And
I remember that in the episode. Your mom caught you because you wanted to be caught.
I wanted to be caught. I started to leave like the bathroom door like cracked and a little open because I think at the time like I knew what I was doing was not okay, but I didn't know how to
Sure.
like stop. So I just wanted somebody else to like help me, but I also was scared to just say it to her.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you because I found that incredible, by the way. Thank God you did that. But did you feel like getting caught would then be able to, you would be able to then talk about it rather than just saying it and then
Yes.
you can begin to, okay. Because
And I don't know
mean,
why, but I just,
No, it's
I was
normal.
just, I couldn't admit it myself. But if somebody else had
course.
seen me do it, then I would be
Sure.
like held accountable in a way.
Sure. But you also knew at that point, because I remember in the episode that you talk about the eating disorder on your podcast, you talked about the symptoms and they scared you.
I
and-
started looking up like the long-term symptoms of bulimia and what it would do
That's
to
right.
me. And
That's right.
it could give me heart problems. My teeth could decay. Like there are so
Absolutely.
many other aspects, and that started to scare me. But I, at the time, felt like I was too far gone to like just admit it. So I needed to
Sure.
be caught.
I want to be clear too, at least from my perspective, who am I, but I'm going to give, just tell you that I think what you did was exactly according to Ella Macduff.
Yes.
Like in other words, there was, I don't feel that there was any like process once again.
No.
Like, oh, okay, I'm going to tell people and then I'm going to go to therapy
Nope.
and then I'm going to, like at the end of the day, your way of processing it was somebody catch me, because I could argue you got caught and then you said, no, nothing's wrong, I'm not going to do anything. The minute that it happened, that's when you began your journey to recovery.
Yes.
So you did it the Ella way.
I did it
and
the
that
Ella
is
way.
exactly what I try to tell people that I work with that are younger. Do things, I quit
Your
my
way.
career my way. You know what I'm saying?
There's no
It would have
right
been-
way to do it.
Exactly. What would have been different is if you had been caught, in my opinion, and you didn't want to do anything about it.
Exactly.
Mom, get out of my way.
Yep.
Then you are the one who has to suffer the consequences.
Exactly.
But the fact that you were like, thank God, I could at least, begin.
I felt like I
and
could breathe again.
Right. And then the Chasing Red Flags platform, telling your story about the drink spiking, all of a sudden that opens up.
Yes.
And once again, I want to share with my listeners, your story is your credibility. That's it. Like people
I love that.
they're flocking to you, or at least the people that are reaching out to you. Your story is credible.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you are doing this as a result of what happened to you, I'm going to divulge that I also had it happen to me, and either help me recover, or I'm going to now start my recovery because you have. It is so important, especially as a brander. I do branding.
Yeah.
Your story is your credibility, period, end of story.
I love it.
And even though your mess is now your message, because, obviously
It is.
your story being your credibility, it's not a great story in the sense that, it wasn't woo, but it's
Powerful
credible
story.
because exactly. And that's why people are like, I want more of Ella, or I want to get to know her, or I want her to be in legislation and talk about this bill because I want you to hear what she's been through.
Yeah.
100%. And I also have to say that I'm really impressed with your recovery. I'm
Thank you.
impressed that you want to get better.
It's been hard, I will say. And
100.
it's
yeah.
something especially where it's like I'm always going to be living with an eating disorder. It does not
Always.
just go away. And I think that's something I had to learn also, is like, just because I'm not doing it anymore doesn't mean that I can't relapse or that it wouldn't happen again. But I'm always going to be living with it. And I have to remember that.
And that's interesting that you say that, because one of the other things with all the work I've done is there's a big difference between changing and evolving. There's a big difference.
Big.
You can't change my DNA,
No.
but I can evolve with behaviors
100%.
that allow me to actually be better off, or at least with other people, like a marriage.
Yes.
Like I have to put behaviors in so that I could be happily married. You're not going to change who I am.
Yeah.
So I want you to understand that too at a young age, that what you're doing is you're evolving. You've got behaviors, but you're normal, you're human, and you may fall down on the wagon, but if you have your support system around you, bingo.
And I think also, I'm never going to not feel like I want to have control in my life. And that's such a big thing for me. And so with a lot of therapy, I've been trying to figure out other ways to gain that control back without harming myself.
That's exactly right. And by the way, I am sure 7 out of 10 young girls your age feel the same way. Mm-hmm. Now they've got an outlet, or at least if they find you, they have an outlet to talk about it, or at least an outlet to ask you. 100%. They may not want to tell the whole world, but at least they can ask you.
And that's what makes me so grateful. It was the same thing with the drink spiking. Nobody needs to tell the whole world, but if they feel comfortable enough sharing it with me, then I'm here for them always.
Exactly. Oh, I wish at your age I had the same wisdom.
Thank you.
Because I did not.
It's taken a long time.
Oh, and it's going to be even longer,
yes.
But you're going to have a much longer life of it having happened to you positively. I really started at like 46 to 50 when my wife had breast cancer. I had a breakdown, and that's when I really started like, who am I? Mm-hmm. And my whole platform is about who are you?
Exactly.
Just like yours. And we got to show the flaws, babe. We got to, we got to be authentic.
Being real outshines being perfect, and that's our saying.
That's exactly right. One thing I wrote here was, on a mission to create an environment and a space where being real outshines being perfect. I mean, oh my God, that is just amazing.
Our big mission, I will say, for Chasing Red Flags that we've really come to figure out, is to promote this authenticity and mental wellness by challenging these societal demands for perfection that are going on in our world. And I think especially our name reflects our core belief with the red flags in our lives, which yes, are often seen as maybe flaws or warnings, are really just more powerful signals guiding us towards self-awareness and transformation and healing. And instead of avoiding those red flags, if you embrace them more as opportunities to look in and reclaim your power and create lasting change, then that is our goal for you.
Well said. Before we get into what I think is another great thing that you've done, just talk to me about the Dr. Phil, being on the Dr. Phil with your TikTok, because I thought that was interesting, and I just want my listeners to know, you've made it far.
Oh, yes. That was that was awesome. They just played my TikTok about me being drink spiked. It wasn't a full-on interview, but I was in the Dr. Phil episode, and it was incredibly amazing. That was one of the first things that had happened to me. So right after.
And that's the TikTok where you finally divulged.
That is the TikTok. That's the original drink spiking TikTok that I made, sitting in my college room sophomore year saying, this is what I went through. And they found it. And that was more the catalyst for me being okay, I can be on this platform. Let me get on other platforms, because clearly sharing my story is going to help advocate, and other people are connecting to it.
That is so powerful. I know that people may be like, oh, Dr. Phil, that's powerful. That's a message that somebody out there, his producing team, is looking at this. And now it opened up the documentary that Sherry did. It may be silent, but it's starting to really get some noise now. It's whispering, and now it's loud. And I don't know, when I was listening to the episode of the Journal, which we're going to talk about, I just thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
I was like, wow. I already thought you were amazing, and I wanted to share your story. And I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. This thing is an epidemic. This isn't just Ella, happening in a bar one night. Nope. This is happening everywhere.
And I don't think I even realized that it was an epidemic until the amount of people that reached out to me after I shared my story.
That's right. And
it is not just in Massachusetts, but it's in all 50 states. It's abroad. It is everywhere. And
community makes you so much more empowered.
Yes.
You feel, at least for me, when I know there's other people that have had cancer, and, I connect with them right away, that is just empowering. Of course. Very. It's I'm not alone.
No.
Okay. That's even, that's great.
And that's what I really want to emphasize, especially with the drink spiking, is you are not alone in this.
Absolutely. Okay. I want to talk about the next big thing. I mean, here we are. We talk about the podcast. We talk about, legislation. We talk about, you're an activist in some ways, and we talk about mental health. And then, boom, ladies and gentlemen, they launched a journal that is called Let's Get Real. I know you can't see it if you're listening, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. First of all, before we talk about this journal, I want to talk about the packaging that it came in. Okay.
Yes.
This is the packaging. It's a beautiful bag with a bow around it. Okay. It came with a personal note, which doing branding as I do, unbelievable.
Thank
came
you.
with also a welcome message.
Yes.
Ella, I have to tell you, this journal, I don't even think this is a journal. This is a masterpiece.
Thank
and
you. Thank you.
I want to know, there's no need to thank me. I got to thank you for putting your money where your mouth is. And I want to ask you, why was this the next step? I know you want to get it out into people's hands, which I'm going to help you do.
Yep.
But why was it the next step in the Chasing Red Flags platform? And let's talk about the idea and the inception of this journal.
So in my past, if I'm being honest, I feel like I've always had diaries and journals, and I've always written in them. I went back into my room when I was home before I came back to college, and I found my 5th grade diary. So I've found writing and getting my feelings out on a piece of paper so helpful. But a lot of the time, it didn't necessarily give me a lot of direction, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I'd kind of vent, I'd close it, and I'd feel better, but I'd still feel a little lost. And I think after my friendship breakup and an unhealthy relationship and my anxiety and panic attacks and all of the things that I've been through, what really helped was kind of learning how to journal in a way that made me feel better.
Wow.
And we wanted to create a tool that actually helped people figure out kind of what to say, but also how to process it from there.
Okay. Now you got to talk a little bit about the making of this journal. How did you even start with your mother? What's included? Just give us a synopsis, because I don't think, obviously it's a journal, but it is way more than a journal.
Thank you.
Let's Get Real.
Yes.
And it is a book.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the inception, how it started, and what you wanted to include in it.
So overall, it's a therapist approved, which is one of our biggest things, guided journal. So it has 240 prompts, 12 different themes, affirmations, coloring pages, tips for stress and anxiety, and a groundbreaking book club / discussion guide that really turns your solo reflection into a community and connection. And for me, we realized that loneliness is at an all-time high right now. And people are looking for ways to connect with other people. And so that's why for us, this discussion guide in the journal is so important, because it transforms jumping from a solo activity where you're answering an individual question into shared conversations, which kind of can give people the chance to connect over their real stories and struggles and growth. And we kind of our saying is it helps somebody move from the me to the we.
So as an example of that, could I be filling out one of the chapters, and then I decide I want to go to have coffee with a friend and talk about what I wrote, what that person wrote? Is that what you mean by community?
So
by we?
There's a 13th chapter. So that's our book club chapter. And so if you go to the back of the book, the 13th chapter has each of the 12 themes. It's 5 new questions in the back, and those are questions that are meant to answer and do with other people.
Okay, because I remember you talked about the book club.
You don't need to ever share your individual entries. That is yours and yours only. If you would like to and you feel comfortable enough sharing it with somebody else, you're more than welcome to. But anything in the first 12 chapters, those are all yours. Those are your individual reflections. And you get to the back of the book, or if you complete chapter 8 or you do a few things of chapter 8 and you're going to get coffee with a friend, go to the end of the book, go to chapter 8, and there are 5 questions right there that are going to spark some awesome conversations for you to connect with somebody else.
Wow. Okay. Now I understand.
Yes.
And talk about This is what I love too. Talk about the coloring pages and why you included them. I thought that was so clever.
So I have always I'd carry around like my journal and then my coloring book. And there are some days where I didn't want to feel or write about the heaviness that was going on in my life. And I just wanted to color and just like, I don't know, distract myself and feel a little less anxious. And so we decided to include two coloring pages because it's a full page on both sides for each chapter. Because there are some days that if you look at a question or you look at a chapter and you don't want to, great, there you go. You can go to the back of that chapter and there's a coloring page for you. And you can just sit for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, color, feel a little bit better, and then maybe the next day open the book and do a question.
That's unique. And that's such a little subtle thing can make such a big difference. And I think that was really great because I mean,
that was, I will say I give myself credit for that because I really wanted that involved. And my mom was like, what? And I was like, no, I think this could be a universal tool, not just for the writing, but for the conversations and for the anxiety healing and making yourself feel better by just coloring.
And just opening up your mind. Like you said, some days you just want to draw.
Exactly.
Talk about, I'm going to show on the video, but talk about the circles at the end of each chapter, because I thought that was also clever when I when I watched the episode about the launch. Tell me about the circles.
So I like to keep track of what I do. And so because we made this journal extremely flexible, my mom's very type A. I'm a little bit more type B. So she's the type of person that will start at chapter 1 in the first question and complete it in order.
Wow.
I started the journal in chapter 8 because that's just what I was feeling. And so I like to keep track of where and when you kind of like have completed them. And so those circles, you color one in every time you complete an entry in that chapter. And so you can go back if you do chapter 8 one day, chapter 6 the next, chapter 10 the other day, and then you go back to chapter 8, you can see, oh, I already did 3 entries. I still have this many to go.
Wow. So just so my listeners understand, if there's like 20 entries in a chapter, you have 20 little
20
circles, and then you can draw in the circle, and you can come back and say, oh, I've done the first 10. Let me go back or at least, it's an easier way than just going to like flip the pages.
Exactly.
I think that's incredible. Tell me why affirmations and manifestations, which I now understand, like, they really make a big difference. They do. Tell me why it was important to include also words of affirmation, manifestations as well. Talk a little bit about that.
So we were very intentional with adding those because...
Oh, you are?
Yes. So we learned that... So there's an affirmation, a little statement on the bottom of each page. When you have the full journal entry, there's the question, blank page, and an affirmation.
Let me give one. It says here, you are stronger than your fears. And then you have rewrite as in I am affirmation below.
Yes. So we learned that when you hear and write things like that, or for example, like I am unstoppable when I believe in myself, you actually are going to start talking to yourself that way. So when you tell yourself that more than 20 times, it becomes a part of your life. And so we started it out with a you because we wanted everyone who does this journal to know that we are there with them. But then we also wanted you to write it as an I statement so you could start believing in yourself.
Wow. Okay. And actually that I do believe that if you say something 40 times, you start really believing it. And that makes a lot of sense. And
I do my affirmations in the mirror every morning and I say, I'm beautiful, I am strong, I'm powerful, I can do whatever I want to in myself and something along those lines. But I start to believe in myself more.
I do at night before I go to bed. I can't believe I'm saying this on my podcast when I'm going to. I do my gratitudes in bed. I'm like, thank you for, keeping my children safe. Like my wife landed last night, thank you for bringing her home safely. Thank you for a great day. I do, because I truly believe that gratitude is a muscle. I get it now. And you got to practice gratitude because of everything that's going on in the world. There's somebody has it worse than you. And if you can just stop and be grateful, like a positive affirmation, woo, it's made a big difference in my life.
And I think for us, especially with this journal, like what makes it completely different in general is the depth, like the manifestations and all of these questions that you have. Every prompt and every single thing that we've written comes from what people are actually working through or need to work through. And I think a big part of it is that we keep it really flexible. So like, again, there are some days where you can go deep and other days where you need a break. And that's also why we included the manifestations and the check-ins and some quotes for like the days that writing just feels too much and you just want a little something different.
There are some people that will listen to this episode and they'll be like, what affirmations, whatever, you manifestation. Yeah. I'm telling you,
I didn't think it didn't work.
Right. For someone who's been in therapy for about 14 years, I'm telling you, positive affirmations, when you when you manifest things, you can't say, oh, I hope I get $1 billion 20 times and then next week you're going to be a billionaire. You've got to do the work. But when you write it down, the manifestation, and then you have the affirmation that I am confident, I can do this. Even with this podcast, like I told you, I was nervous in the beginning. Like once I get into it, I'm
now.
like, right, but like if you never do that, and I did say to myself, like I could do this. I don't like to fly. When I'm on the plane, I'm like, I'm a big boy. That's my daughter always says that to me. So that really does work. I just want people, listeners, for if anything, just get the damn journal and read through it or give it as a gift, because I'm telling you, mind blown. And I also want to say one other thing in addition to the questions. One thing I've learned in luxury marketing, because I spent some time in luxury marketing, I always said to my team, sweat the details. You have got to sweat the details in luxury marketing if that's how we want to win. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, talk a little bit, I don't know what it's called, but talk a little bit about why the book binding was important. Tell me about the binding, because that really is a detail that you both sweat. And actually, when I heard about it, as you'll tell, it made a lot of sense as I started going through the book. So tell us about the binding and why it was important to you.
I give my mom a lot of credit for that, but I also had my past journals, so it was kind of like a combination. But we have a lay flat binding on this book because we want it, when you just put it down, to completely lay flat without one of the sides of the book like tipping over. Because if I'm being honest, if you're writing and you're having to put your elbow down and you're trying to like move, it gets annoying. We wanted it to be really easy to use and accessible for everybody. So it's such a small detail, but it's really nice when you're able to like go from one page to the other without having to hold it down, especially the fact that we have coloring pages as well, because the coloring pages go on both sides. So it's just very nice to be able to have a lay flat binding where you don't have to worry.
That detail, that's what I mean by sweat the detail. No, but it's powerful.
Yes.
Because I'm a lefty, so I'm always like,
exactly. My dad and my brother are.
Yeah, and then when I tried it, I'm like, oh, let me try. I'm like, oh, I get it now. You open it up, you fold it a little, and it just stays open. And I'm like, wow. So I want to give you and your mom some credit as somebody who does brand marketing. When you sweat the details like that, you win. I just want to say that is a feather in your cap. I also want to say the other thing that I thought was very interesting about the journal, and I want my my listeners to hear this as well. I thought it was very interesting when you and your mom said during the interview with Alyssa and Olivia, is that it? That you said, you can actually bring this journal to therapy and you could go through a question or two and have a topic to talk about with your therapist. And the reason I thought that was important was I always on the way to therapy, I definitely have things to talk about, but I'm always like, what am I going to talk about today with Nicole?
Exactly.
And as crazy as that sounds, that's why I want my listeners, if you're in therapy, you got to get this journal, because I thought about it and I'm like, wow, that is an interesting idea, because on the way to therapy, I'm always wondering what idea I want to talk about. And when you have these questions that get to who you are, what bothers you, or what things in your life do you want to change, I'm like, wow, that woke me up, because an advocate of therapy, I thought, that is really smart. So I wanted to just tell you and my listeners that that's a good way to have the discussion with your therapist.
Thank you. I think a big thing, was that we obviously wanted it to be a tool for people who may not have access to therapy or can't afford it. And so I think we wanted that to be a huge part of it. But then also the combination is, if you do have that access, you can take these questions and bring them to your therapist. For me, especially, like sometimes for one of the questions, I'll just literally rant and write something out that I wasn't even thinking about. And then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that that's how I was feeling. And then I bring it to my therapist and we get to the deeper part of why I was feeling that way.
So helpful, right?
Yes. Because I also sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today, but I know I have to go. So it's nice to be able to have some more questions and examples of what you could be talking about.
And that leads me to, why was being therapist approved? I mean, obviously that's great. Why was it important?
We really wanted it to be, well, we knew that this couldn't just be emotional. It needed to be a very responsible journal. And so we kind of had different therapists review every single prompt and every theme, because we wanted them to help us make sure that the language was safe and supportive for every single person that was using it.
That's another detail that you sweat, that, wow. The whole time I'm listening to this launch, I'm like, wow, this isn't just any old, like when I heard journal at first, and obviously that's the way that people will remember it, I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm like, oh no, this is a masterpiece.
Thank you.
This is
it's
really
more than
unbelievable.
just a journal, we feel like.
100%. And I thought also what was interesting was when your mom mentioned in the episode that it's about both reacting and reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
And talk a little bit about that, because that also was really powerful for me.
I think some of these questions you can immediately react to and answer, but we have the reflection piece in the back and the manifestation piece in the back, because we want you to go back and read your entries and kind of sit with them and understand what you were feeling, and then reflect on what you've learned and how you can grow from there. And I think that's a big aspect that a lot of journals might not necessarily have, which is kind of why we wanted to include it, because it's more than just, again, I'd write something down and close the book, and yeah, I'd feel better for 10 minutes after, but then I would go back to feeling the way that I am. But if you have questions and places to reflect and learn and be able to kind of grow from it and have reasons to do it, then that's kind of what we wanted.
Wow, that's really great. I mean, a lot of, as you said before, a lot of journals you react.
Yeah.
You know, you come home from a night with your friends and you're like,
exactly.
But they're really, some people may reflect, but to actually, I find that when you have to do based on the prompt, like when the journal says, tell us about the reflection, it almost forces you to do that. It forces you.
And we didn't want to force people, but we kind of did, because that's the next step in learning about yourself and growing from there. I don't think just writing it all out is going to help you. Like, you have to take those next steps. And for us, that was the reflection.
That's the power of why this journal is more than just a journal. I mean, it's called Let's Get Real. Authenticity begins here. And it's true. And you know what? I've also learned, and you're going to find this too if you haven't already, it's sort of pretty lonely sometimes when you do a lot of the work and you like sort of work on yourself and other people aren't. And you're around other people that haven't done it yet or don't do it at all. Mm-hmm. And it is scary, but it's also lonely, because sometimes you're like, wow, I really do know myself and I'm making changes. And sometimes you get new friends, new communities, or some of your old friends don't want to do the work and don't ask you about it, and you're like, you know, is that fair?
100%. And I think that's why we have the book club chapter, because we just kept saying, like, what if this journal could actually start the kinds of conversations that people want to have but don't necessarily know how to bring up. We give you a little bit of a guidance on how to do that. And I think that that's a big aspect as well.
I got to tell you, I think that this can work in companies, this can work in retreats, this can work at camps. Well, that is the goal, and I'm glad you said that. And as I just said, that is the goal. That should be the goal. And it's sort of funny because I was thinking about this as well. I want to say something, and then I want to ask you one more question. Yeah. But I remember during the episode of the launch, you talked about idols. You know, who would you want to, get this book in their hand? Mm-hmm. And your mom talked about Sarah Blakely, who is, I just love Sarah.
I love her too, but that's my mom's biggest idol. So,
I talk about Spanx every single day. Jesse's creative director is somebody I mentor, the whole long story, but I think they're great. But what was interesting was I will never forget what Sarah Blakely said when I was building my business, I listened to Guy Raz. He's another podcaster. And she said, the real work begins when Spanx was launched, not up until the launch.
Nope.
When Spanx launched, my work began. And I always remember that, because even building my platform, just because you may think it's cool, it doesn't work if I don't put the effort in. And now taking this, I mean, the sky's the limit. And like you said before, move and improve. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I could see this in so many places where people are just afraid to open up, or groups that need to break the ice. It's a great icebreaker. There's a million prompts, Because
some of the prompts are super, like, again, you can answer them. That's why we made it so flexible. First off, I know I had said this. I started in chapter 8. My mom started in chapter 1. We did that because it's all undated. So you are allowed to write in the date and choose whenever you want to start. But I also think what's so important is, like, you're just able to, like, choose how you want to. It's flexible. So if you don't want to answer the question and have it be deep, then you can write one sentence. But if you do want it to be deep and you want to go more flexible and kind of like explore deeper into what you're feeling, that's completely fine as well.
I love it.
It's your choice. It's on your own terms. And we just wanted to give you guidance.
Amazing. Let me ask you, how long did it take you, by the way, I want my listeners to know, how long did a year?
Yeah.
Okay. So from soup to nuts,
This has been in the back of our minds even when we were just starting the podcast. We had started just like creating some questions, and we have over 500 questions. But
so
we
you
only
did
have 240 in the book.
Right. Oh, yeah, only 240. But you had been thinking about this for a while,
yes.
right? Because you guys seem to both be someone, you and your mom, that like when you say something, you're going to do it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, obviously, over the year and putting it together, I have to imagine that old wounds resurfaced for you. And I want to know, did creating the journal help you process them even more? Were there setbacks? Like, what's the real Ella in dealing with some of the challenges that you had in putting this together?
It was not easy. I will tell you that. Therapy has been amazing, and I've been going and bringing up a lot of stuff, but creating these questions was so incredibly personal to me, because every single one is something that I've answered and also gone through. It's very personal. And so it brought up a lot of old wounds, but it helped me heal more, because while we were creating these questions, I was re-answering them in my own head and kind of relearning how I felt. And it was kind of like releasing it a little bit more. And that felt really nice.
Totally. And I have to imagine that helped you, I would say. If you didn't do the journal,
yes.
Do you think you would be as confident as you are right now?
Nope.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because what did the negative became such a positive in what way?
I mean, a lot of the questions I had to answer and rehash, kind of like, oh yes, my ex did cheat on me and this is how I felt during it. But then going to the reflection side of things in the journal, I was able to reflect on, now that I've accepted it and I know it wasn't my fault and I know that there were all of these other outside aspects that were going on, it kind of helped me heal. And now, if I'm being honest, I feel a lot better about especially that. And same with my eating disorder and same with my panic attacks. Those don't go away, but I'm learning how to handle things a little better because of the way that I've answered these questions. And I've done these, I will say, one of the things which is also why we made it undated is because you can do this every year or every 2 years, or if you finish it in 6 months, you can restart, because whatever stage of life you're in or whatever you're feeling right now, it's going to be different than what you had answered before.
Wow. Full circle moment.
It's full circle. I mean,
it's incredible. I want to ask you the following question I ask everybody on my show.
Okay.
If I'm honest, I think I asked Brady, she was the last person. I used to ask people ahead of time if I can ask this question, because I've dealt with a lot of sensitive subjects, a la yours, and I used to ask them, is it okay? And eventually when we were done with the question, they would say, why did you need to ask me that?
Yeah.
That's totally appropriate. So I don't ask it anymore. Now I'm just going to hit you with it.
Hit me.
And what I want to know is, what are you grateful for as a result of the drink spiking happening to you?
That's a great question.
I asked Brady, I asked Leslie Wyrick, whose son died by suicide. What are you grateful for as a result of what happened to you?
I'm so grateful for a wide variety of things, but my biggest thing is the community that I have created and found from me sharing my story. I do not think I would have realized that we are rare. We are not rare. We are just rarely believed.
I
But
love that.
it is so nice to feel like I have a support system and people who understand what I went through. And I'm so grateful that I have had people who have felt comfortable enough sharing their stories with me, because then as much as I'm trying to let other people know they're not alone, it's nice for me to feel like I'm not alone too.
Okay, that's one of the most powerful answers that I've ever received interviewing.
Really?
And no, honestly, that just says a lot about you. It just says a lot about you. For you to serve others, that's the whole point of my show. I talked about in the beginning, you created possibilities to serve others. And that answer, unprompted, that's why I didn't ask you the question ahead of time, because
I'm glad you didn't.
my guest told me I don't need to do that. With an event that happens, I'm a cancer survivor, so is my wife. Like, there is a lot of gratitude. I say that my best two gifts were my cancers.
Yes.
I tell people that. And some people look at me weird. And if you've had cancer, people go, I get it.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, because I wouldn't be where I am today.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have the relationship with my children that I have right now. I wouldn't be doing the impact work with people. So
we are survivors, and we have gone through what we've gone through to be who we are today. And I
would
100%
argue
agree with
you're
you.
thrivers.
We are thrivers.
Or Sir Thrivers.
I
as
like
people
that
have
even
said.
better.
That's just a couple of people that I've interviewed have said Sir Thriver.
I like that.
But honestly, your story is your credibility. Just like you talked about your statement about we're not rare, we're rarely believed. Your story is your credibility.
Yeah.
If you remember that for the rest of your life, you are just going to be so powerful in whatever you do, in addition to continuing the platform of Chasing Red Flags. So,
thank you.
Okay, as we near the end,
Yes.
we're almost done. I could talk to you.
Oh my God, I could go for like 5 more hours.
But obviously you're in school. Can't do that. As we near the end, I have some words to say to you.
Okay.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Now just sit back and take it in. Take what I'm about to say all in, okay? And I really spent time writing this,
Okay.
so I want to share as follows. I dedicate one word to each episode. I'm the one word gent.
I love it.
I dedicate one word to each episode that embodies the message I want everyone to walk away with after listening. And I'm dedicating the one word courage to this episode. And here's why. Courage is the strength to face fear, transform shame into power, and use your story to spark change. In the wake of a traumatic night that could have silenced you, you chose courage. To share openly, to create Chasing Red Flags, and to fight for a system that protects others. You turned your pain into a platform that helps people heal, connect, and feel less alone. And I just love that. And let Ella's story be a reminder. When you're out enjoying yourself, stay aware, protect your friends, and know that drink spiking is real. Go watch the documentary. If it happens to you, it's never your fault, as you've said, Ella. I really, really hope my listeners walk away from our conversation thinking about how they can infuse a bit more courage into their own lives, especially when fear and shame tempt them to stay quiet, and hopefully they'll learn from your story. I am super grateful to have a new friend in my circle. I'm so happy.
Grateful.
And I will do whatever I can to share your message of awareness, advocacy, and healing. I hope our conversation continues way beyond this episode.
It will.
It will if I have any power.
Me too.
Everyone listening, please go buy the Let's Get Real journal for yourself or for a loved one. It's a powerful tool to help you step into your power, own your story, and embrace the real vulnerable you. the one ready to take up space and thrive. Those are direct words from your journal.
Love it.
Before we do my lightning round, I do have a lightning round, which is really easy.
I love lightning
Please
rounds.
tell my listeners where they can connect with you, learn more about Chasing Red Flags, and most importantly, buy the journal.
So right now, the journal is on Amazon, chasingredflags.com, and TikTok Shop, which is very exciting. You can
awesome.
find us on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Chasing Red Flags Official. And then our website is chasingredflags.com.
Love that. And by the way, how is the journal doing? I didn't ask you that.
It's doing very well. It's been amazing. We've gotten a lot. I mean, sales are going well, but we've gotten people reaching out, hopefully trying to start doing some bulk orders because people are realizing that this can be used in companies and with groups and families and friends and sororities, that we're trying to get it out there. And so it's really nice to know that we're doing that.
As Sarah Blakely said, the real work begins after the launch. So hats off to you.
And I just want to thank you because I just truly... It's been very hard, and I appreciate the acknowledgement for what I've been going through, and courage, and that word to me means so much. And to see that other people are seeing what I've done and trying to share my story and making me feel so comfortable, I appreciate it.
Oh my God. When I reached out to you, I think it was like April or May, and you were in Barcelona.
Yep.
I was like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to do it. And then you said, talk to me at the end of the summer.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm going to talk to her.
We're doing it.
I'm emailing her.
And I am so glad we did.
I just want to say how grateful I am because I try to pick people and stories that mean the world to me and have some sort of impact. This one did.
Thank you.
So I got to thank you for saying yes. I mean, that's how we met, and Brady, and it was just, there's always the kismet and the way, 6 degrees of separation. So I just want to thank you for sharing this story on my podcast, and I'm going to help you when we're in the future or when we're done. Now, I always sound with lightning round.
Love it.
Okay. When I say the following 3 phrases, please share the one word that immediately comes to mind. Okay. I'll say each phrase, and then you give me the one word before I say the next phrase. Okay. There are no right or wrong answers. I just want to know the first word
nervous.
No. Don't, everybody gets that way. It's so easy. It's so easy, okay? But everybody gets nervous, but it is so easy. I'll say the phrase, and then you say what the first word. I don't care what the word is, okay? Here goes. Ready? First phrase, stand out.
Me.
Second phrase, conquer obstacles.
Conquer obstacles. My drugging incident.
Okay.
That's not one word, though. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No problem. The last phrase, reach excellence.
Connect with others.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say Ella Macduff, which is me, my drugging incident, drugging, and connection are how Ella Macduff scores. I'm Rich Keller, the Catalyst, and see you next time on The Catalyst Effect. Keep choosing courage, Ella. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to The Catalyst Effect. I greatly appreciate it because I'm on a mission to transform 1 million lives one word at a time. You are now part of my one-word movement. If this episode inspired you, please share it with your friends, family, and colleagues, as that's what continues to build this movement. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Stitcher. And to learn more about how to discover your one word, visit www.therichkeller.com. I'm Rich Keller, the Catalyst, and I'll catch you next time on The Catalyst Effect.